Hello, this is Dr. Cooper, and this is lecture 22, part 2, Contacting the Dead, Entreaties and Mutual Aid. So we're going to move on now and think about the ancient Egyptians and what it meant when the ancient Egyptians petitioned the dead. So the Egyptians saw the dead as active members of the family who could intervene in the world of the living. And one of the ways they did this is by writing letters to the dead. So living relatives would write letters on pottery shards called ostraca or on papyrus and leave them in the tomb of the dead. So these were direct, legalistic, or emotional appeals to deceased relatives, asking them to solve problems or to stop curses or to assist in disputes. So letters of the dead have been found on a range of materials such as bowls or figurines or linen or papyrus or a jar stand or stone stele, or as I said, ostraca, which are pot shards. So both men and women could be petitioners of the deceased, or they could be both men and women could be the recipient of these letters. They generally included some or all of the following components. So in the first place, addressing the deceased by name and often the title and the relationship to the petitioner. Greeting the deceased, which took the form of an offering formula, well-wishing, or some other invocation. And then stating the problem, which was often either about inheritance or illness or very often fertility based as well, asking that children be forthcoming. And then lastly, petitioning for the desired outcome. So what you're looking at here is a bowl letter to the dead, and it might be quite difficult for you to see, but you'll probably be able to see in some ways that there are letters written into this bowl. So I will read it first, beginning on the inside. So on the inside of this letter to the dead bowl, it says, Shepsi speaks to his father Linikenmut. This is a reminder of your journey to the dungeon, to the place where Sen's son Hepetu was, when you brought the foreleg of an ox, and when your son came with Nuwaif, and when you both said, welcome, both of you. Sit and eat meat. I am to be injured in your presence, without this your son having done anything, by my brother, and yet I was the one who buried him. I brought him from the dungeon. I placed him amongst his desert tomb dwellers, even though 30 measures of refined barley were due from him by a loan, and 1 bundle of garments, 6 measures of fine barley, 1 ball of flax, and a cup, even though I did for him what did not need to be done. He has done this against your son evilly. But you had said to this son, all my property is vested in my son Shepsi, along with my fields. Now Sher's son Henu has been taken. See, he is with you in the same city. You have to go to judgment with him now, since your scribes are with you in the same city. Can a man be joyful when his spears are used against his own son? Okay, so there's a lot going on there. There's some kind of inheritance dispute, that there are said items that the brother has taken when everything was supposed to be given to this man Shepsi. And there are also this is a protracted dispute. It's kind of long and convoluted, and it's a little difficult to know who exactly has done what to whom and what is being asked. But the father is being asked to sort out this squabble between brothers. So on the outside of the bowl, it reads, Shepsy speaks to his mother. This is a reminder of the time that you said to this your son, bring me quails for me to eat. And when this your son brought you 7 quails for you to eat. Am I to be injured in your presence, so that the children are badly discontent with this your son, who then will pour out water for you? If only you would not judge between me and Sobekotep. I brought him from another town and placed him in his town among his male and female dead, and gave him a burial cloth. Why then is he acting against your son, when I have said and done nothing evilly? Evil is painful for the gods. Again, very confusing, very hard to figure out what's going on. But in this case, I think what's going on is Shepsy believes that the body of or the soul of this guy, what's his name, Sobekotep, that Sobekotep he is dead. And Shepsy thinks he's done pretty well for him. He's taken him to the town where he came from, placed him amongst his dead, and but the Sobekotep is acting out against him. His the spirit is attacking him. So he's asking his mom to please go sort it out, because he doesn't want to get attacked by this dead man's spirit anymore. Yeah, so that's what's going on with Shepsy. His dad has to sort something out between him and his brother, and his mum has to stop this spirit from attacking him. Very, very personal requests. And in each case, they both begin with, hey, remember that time that I was great to you and I bought you that big leg of cow? Or remember that time I bought you 7 quails when you wanted them? And if you're not good to me, who's going to pour water for you now? So it's very, very personal, very, very sort of as if the family members are still sat around a table squabbling. Okay, so let's move on to Mesoamerica now, and in particular the Aztecs. So in Mesoamerica, the dead have this same kind of continuity. So these are very sophisticated civilizations, and while each could be said to be or are actually different, what they have in common is the dead are integrated into a cosmic balance that required sustained communication and human duty. So we're talking about the Aztecs circa about 14th to 16th century CE right now. So the Aztec dead traveled to various afterlives depending on the manner of their death. And that's what we're looking at here, is their soul's arduous journey to Mictlan, the land of the dead. And this journey that the soul had to go on after it was dead was believed to last at least 4 years. So the communication mechanism between the living and the dead was through ritual. So the living had to perform rituals and make offerings in order to sustain the deceased on this arduous 4-year journey. So the Aztecs communicated with the dead by placing offerings on altars or using symbolic items to guide and honor spirits. They believed in a reciprocal relationship with the deceased, and that the dead could return. So offerings of food and flowers and personal items were made to support the the journey of the soul and to maintain this connection between the living and the dead. So some of these gifts could include vibrant marigold flowers because they had a particular strong scent to help guide spirits. So families would construct elaborate altars in their homes to honor the dead, and this, of course, has a lot of resonance in modern Day of the Dead ceremonies, etc. So these shrines were adorned with candles and food offerings. And as I said, there's these marigolds, which are very common. Copal incense, a resin that's been used since ancient times, which was supposed to help draw spirits to the altar. Some kinds of personal objects, pottery tools, or even urns, even hair were included in burial urns, which might help souls in their afterlife journey. So the Aztecs saw the dead as not truly gone, but as having an ongoing intimate relationship with the living. And these offerings were essential to maintain this reciprocal relationship. So according to now our belief, a person's soul would embark on this journey to Mictlan, their final reference resting place, and the living family members aided the soul, and priests and diviners used a complex calendar system in order to relay guidance and prophecy. Particularly important were deceased rulers and powerful ancestors who could be consulted during major crises through specialized and often ecstatic rites to ensure cosmic continuity and appease the powerful forces of the underworld. So Aztecs communicated with powerful dead ancestors through divination practices led by spiritual specialists and astronomer priests. And these individuals used rituals within a 260-day calendar, as well as sometimes trance states as well, which were induced by fasting and drumming or hallucinogens to interpret omens and seek guidance from the spiritual realm. So this communication was vital for predicting the future and making important community decisions. And it also helped maintain a sense of connection and continuity with the ancestors. So there's a lot going on here that has so many different elements brought together from the different practices that we've looked at so far. So there's the honoring of the ancestors, the helping them on the journey, but the use of rituals and calendars to do the rituals in the right at the right times, but also the idea that the dead can help the living, particularly powerful ancestors or kings who could provide prophecies. And these could be contacted through practices that are kind of shamanistic. Although this is a very, sophisticated world, there is this kind of practice that may include, imbibing some kind of intoxicant. Okay, so let's move on now to Asia. And we've already looked at East Asia and South Asia. No, we've already looked at East Asia in terms of ancestral worship. But in both East and South Asia, the dead are woven into the daily fabric of familial life and social structure. In China, the ancestors are invested with a lot of authority, and ancestor veneration is the most central practice. The dead reside in the yin realm and retain their social authority, and they are communicated with via altar rituals. Food and spiritual currency like burning paper money or joss paper are burned to send sustenance and wealth to the deceased. And this is an act of filial piety, and it's essential to prevent the ancestors' displeasure and to secure their blessings for the family. We've already looked at that in a past lecture. So let's concentrate now more on South Asia, on India, and the way that Hindu practices such as Shadra ceremonies ensure the soul's passage. And these focus on the living's duty to the deceased. So in many ways, very common in to that of ancestor worship in China. So the goal, the purpose is to help the deceased soul, the preta, transition successfully into an honored ancestor. The communication here is one of sustaining the soul's journey so it can achieve rest and in turn sustain the family's health and fortune. So Shradra is there's a period of time in the Hindu calendar during which Hindus perform these rituals and pay homage to their ancestors. So taking part in rituals at this time is believed to provide peace to the ancestors in their afterlife. It's performed on the death anniversaries of the departed per the Hindu calendar, and in addition it's also performed for the entire community, both from the paternal and the maternal side. So these rites typically include offerings of food, very often rice balls called pinda, libations of water, recitation of mantras, gifts to the Brahmins, the priests, and it's commonly observed during the fortnight of Pitru Pakska in the lunar month of Bhadrapada. Sorry, I have some pronunciation problems. That's on me. Bhadrapada. It wouldn't come out the first time. As well as on individual death anniversaries, as I said. So the invocations often begin by invoking the ancestor's name, their clan, the lunar day on which they passed away. And during the ceremonies, as I said, mantras are chanted and heartfelt prayers are offered to ancestors, asking for blessings, for forgiveness, for guidance. And the purpose of this communication is a way to express gratitude, to foster a spiritual connection, and seek blessings for the family's prosperity. So the offerings of food and water are believed to be received by ancestors who can hear through the power of clairvoyance and are pleased by these acts of remembrance. But there's no kind of direct communication, if you know what I mean. Nobody's having a conversation here and giving pronouncements or telling the future, etc. They're just it's an act of remembrance that's heard by the ancestors and can have the result in the fortune of the family. So what you're looking at here is a communal ceremony, usually at the end of the 2 weeks, and this is obviously in an individual's home. Okay, so let's move on now and think about how this all shakes out in medieval Europe. Okay, so we've seen that the Greco-Roman world had necromancy, but the rise of great monotheistic faiths dramatically restructured the spirit world and who could uh, communicate with the dead and how this went about. Obviously, necromancy was not going to go down very well in the Christian faith. But what you get instead are saints who can be communicated with directly. Now, saints are spiritual figures in many religions, not just in Christianity, so including Hinduism, where there are sadhus and gurus, in Buddhism, where there are saints and enlightened beings, in Islam, where there are Sufi saints and scholars, in Sikhism, where there are gurus and saints, and in Judaism, where there are also saints and tzaddikim. So I'm going to talk here about medieval Christian saints, and there's other kinds of saints, similar methods of communication with differences, okay, but I don't have time to go into all the differences. So while the concept of saint varies by religion, it generally refers to individuals who have reached a high spiritual level and are considered as holy and serve as a model to others. So in medieval Europe, the saints were seen as intercessors. The church aggressively condemned direct necromancy, which had been practiced by the Romans before their conversion to Christianity. And the church said it was making a pact with demons, and necromancy was made a capital offense. So instead, the church offered the theology of intercession, a communication with the deceased, which was only sanctioned through the church and only mediated with the church and only with an approved body of the dead, the saints. So instead of, being able to talk to your great auntie Margaret, you could only really talk to the saints, these very special dead that had been, sanctioned by the church and approved of as saints. So the mechanism here was that the faithful would pray to the saint, who would act as a powerful intercessor. The saint would then take the plea directly to God. So this became the dominant accepted method of seeking aid from the spiritual realm. And what you're looking at here is a litany of the saints. Now, the litany of the saints still continues in Catholic prayer as part of the Mass service. And this particular litany is from my period of study. This is the 11th century. This is a British manuscript known as St. Wulfstan's Portiforium, which I'm incredibly familiar with. And what you'll notice is, even though this is 11th century and this is 21st century, this part at least, very, very similar. So we begin Kyrie Ellison, Christy Ellison, Christy Audi Nos there, Audi Nos. They got a little bit extra there. Pater de Celios Deos Misere Nobis. So God the Father of heaven, have mercy on us. Filii Redemptor Mundi Deus. Okay, and I'll just, not that you're ever going to need to know this, but when there's an E with a little line over it, it means the next letter has been missed out, and it's usually an M or an N. So Filii Redemptor Munde Deus. Have mercy on us, God the Son, Redeemer of the world. Spiritus Sancti. This is a little example here of medieval shorthand. Deus Missae. Okay, so then we begin with the litany. Sancte Trinitatis Unus Deus, Holy Trinity, one God. And then look how much bigger this next bit here is written. It's two bits written much bigger here, Sancta Maria and Sancta Petra. And that's because St. Wulfstan Church was the church of Mary and Peter. So they've got sort of an extra little bit of a boost there. Yep, so we're Sancta Mary, and then you'll see here little OR, and this is Orate pro nobis. It's a sort of a shorthand for that. So this might be Holy Mary, pray for us. Sancti Dei Genitrix, Holy Mother of God. Sancto Virge Virginium, Holy Virgin of Virgins, Sancta Michael, Sancta Gabriel, Sancta Raphael, all of these with the orate behind them. So, you know, it would go Sancta Michael, pray for us, Sancta Gabriel, pray for us, Sancta Raphael, pray for us, and then Omnes, several letters missed there, this is another part of shorthand, Sancte Angelae and Archangelae, Omni Sancte Beatorum, all the blessed spirits, spiritum, can't see that now. Oh, ordinem. Okay, all the ordained spirits. So then we get to the list of the saints. St. John the Baptist, St. Jonas Baptista, Omni Sancta Patriarcha and Prophetae. All the saints, all the patriarchs and the prophets. When you have a P with a little curly Q back there, that means pro, and the R and O have been missed out. And then Santa Peter, Santa Paul, etc., etc. And the lists of saints here would be divided, patriarch, prophets, virgins, etc., into different sort of bodies of saints. And very often, although this is standard, as I said, there's 1,000 years between these two, what would change is local saints. So you've got the Santa Mary and Santa Peter there that are larger because the church is for Mary and Peter, but you can have very, very local saints cropping up in the litany. And also, if a particular church owned a bit of a saint, like the finger bone of St. Clement, then that would also be something that was highlighted. So moving on now to Africa and the Yoruba. So across much of sub-Saharan Africa, ancestor veneration remained the foundational model. The dead are really like the living dead, and not in the zombie sense, but in the fact that they're physically gone, but still actively involved in the life of the family and the clan. So the Yoruba people in the Nigeria Benin region have a very particular ancestors role called a gungun. The most respected ancestors are embodied by the egungun or masquerade. So this is what you're looking at in this picture here, these different people. It's such a riot of color, it might be hard for you to pick out, but that's one person in their masquerade, and this is another person here. Okay, you should be able to see what you're looking at now. So these very elaborate, almost like architectural type costumes. I mean, they look like little buildings with this mesh over them, lots of fringes, lots of fancy but each, full of meaning. So, an initiated member of the Egungun Society wears a full, elaborate costume that is believed to be inhabited by the ancestral spirit. The masked figure then speaks directly to the community, communicating the ancestors' moral judgments, settling disputes, and enforcing social stability. So the Egungun Yoruba masquerade tradition honors and reveres ancestors who are believed to continue to influence the lives of the living. These colorful and elaborate costume figures can represent spirits of the departed, appear at annual festivals and other events to provide blessings and maintain social order. The word Egungun can refer to both the masquerade itself and the ancestors who are being honored. The primary purpose of Egungun is to honor the memories of the deceased ancestors, but also to seek continued guidance and protection. So the performance involves this full body costume of layered cloth strips, a wooden mask or headdress, and it's designed to completely conceal the identity of the dancer so that they can then appear as the ancestor. So the performances take place during annual festivals and at other significant events like funerals or family gatherings. The dancers' movements, especially the swirling of the costume, can be seen as representing the abstract form of the ancestor. So according to belief, the Egungun have supernatural powers that can be both beneficial and dangerous. So the costumes are designed to convey the authority of the ancestors, and performances help to maintain social order by acting as a sort of periodic check-in or check-up from the ancestors on how the living are behaving. The festival also serves as a way to strengthen community bonds, to bring people together, to celebrate their shared history and heritage. Now, there are different types of Egungun, each with its own distinctive cloth costume, mask, and headdress. Some are made of wood, and some can depict multiple faces to represent the protective forces of one's broader ancestry. So that's the Yoruba Egungun. So in the first two parts of this lecture, we've moved from the solitary, ecstatic journey of the shaman through the formal oracles of antiquity to the familial duty of Asian worship in China and in India, and the cosmic duty in Mesoamerica, to the mediated religious authority of the medieval saint, and the communal, beneficial, but also bonding and keeping in check of the Egungun. So, although these methods change and they have slightly different ways of communicating, slightly different goals, slightly different power relationships, the impulse remains the same. That's the idea that the dead possess unique knowledge or power that the living need. They need guidance, they need healing, they need blessings. So the history of talking to the dead is ultimately the history of the way humans negotiate their needs with the spiritual authority of the humans that went before them. I thank you for your attention.